Hi, my name is Stephanie Stillo. I'm a curator in the Rare Books and Special Collections Division, and I am delighted to welcome you to another session of From the Vaults. So today's conversation is inspired by a previous session we had in From the Vaults about illustrations made by post-impressionist artist Maurice Denis for the book The Voyage of Urian. And we talked about in that session how important color was, specifically color lithography, for Denis' illustrations. So today I want to talk about a book that was composed around the same time as The Voyage of Urian. But instead of the colorful illustrations that we saw with Maurice Denis, this illustrated book took inspiration from the absence of color. So today we want to talk about The Temptation of Saint Anthony by Gustave Flaubert with illustrations by French artist Odilon Redon. So the topic of Saint Anthony and his night of temptation and torture has been popular for centuries. As the story goes, Anthony went to the desert to seek the divine. And during that time, he was tempted and tortured by the demons and devil, but was eventually redeemed because of his purity of spirit. So the story of Saint Anthony remained popular throughout the centuries. And it was actually one of the earliest illustrations in printed books. And really since then, everyone from Michelangelo to Salvador Dali has had their own unique visual interpretation of Anthony's story. So Gustave Flaubert, who you may know as the author of Madame Bovary, produced 3 different editions of The Temptation of Saint Anthony throughout the 19th century. And they received very mixed reviews by critics. Many found his text impenetrable. However, where critics found density, Redon found boundless inspiration. So it was no surprise that Redon was attracted to Flaubert's dreamlike texts. So Redon as an artist was a symbolist, meaning that he was reacting against the naturalism and the realism of the 19th century. So Redon wanted to explore the dreamlike and the emotion of the unseen world. And that's really what we see in his print illustrations are these unsettling and sort of fascinating monsters that are often lurking in the shadows. Redon believed that the best way to visually describe the inexplicable and the bizarre was through the use of intense contrasts between black and white, which is what we see here. You can only get this intense contrast with the process of lithography. And that was the reason why Redon decided to use lithographs to illustrate this particular series. The result of Redon's deep use of black and contrast between black and white is this almost hallucinatory effect as we follow Saint Anthony in his story of torment, torture, and ultimately redemption. Just like Maurice Denis' illustration for The Voyage of Urian, which was produced around the same time, the printmaking process was an important component of the artistic vision for the work. Quite literally, Flaubert's existential darkness becomes real for the viewer through Redon's skillful use of lithography. Thank you for joining us for another segment of From the Vaults in the Rare Books and Special Collections Division. Please come and join us again for more treasures from the Airmount Library and other books in the Rare Books and Special Collections Division.